Hey guys, want to see us play games? Check us out at twitch.tv/BattleGeekPlus. Welcome to Awesome Video Game Memories, where we talk about awesome memories about video games. I'm Ryan, and the game we're going to talk about today is Resident Evil. So I remember back in 1996 when I was a freshman in high school, I was reading GamePro magazine and I saw a preview for this game called Resident Evil, where you're in a haunted mansion and you have to kill zombies, and I thought, wow, that looks like the coolest thing ever, but the problem was, I didn't have a PlayStation. You know, being a poor freshman in high school, going through my emo problems. So it took me another 2 years in 1998, in my junior year of high school, to finally afford a PlayStation, and I actually didn't play this game until July of 1998. You know, the exact month and year Resident Evil takes place. Well, I don't think I played it on the exact day that it took place. I mean, kind of more towards the beginning of the month, but still, I mean, that was pretty cool. In July of 1998, I was playing Resident Evil, which took place in July of 1998. Yeah, so I rented the Resident Evil Director's Cut, which had the new Director's Cut version of the game with the extra arrange mode, and I also got the Resident Evil 2 demo disc. So when I went home and put in the Resident Evil Director's Cut in my PlayStation, the intro movie froze. It froze. On the part where it says July 1998, it just froze, so I couldn't watch the intro movie. So because I couldn't exactly watch the intro movie, but don't worry, I'll get to that later, trust me, and deciding between the macho Chris Redfield and the lovely Jill Valentine, I obviously chose Jill Valentine. More like, Jill, will you be my Valentine? Oh. Jill Valentine. The ideal woman for every pre-pubescent boy who had a PlayStation at the time. A woman who could handle a gun, pick locks, and was referenced as a sandwich.
You were almost a Jill sandwich.
Thanks, Barry. You know, so I started the game. The control scheme was very weird. You know, like what people dub as the tank controls. I was able to play the game up until I saw the zombie eating Kenneth. I killed a zombie, and once I exit the door, the game would freeze. So I ended up renting a defective copy from Hollywood Video, if you remember that place. So I played the Resident Evil 2 demo more, which I will cover in the next video, don't worry. So a couple of months later, my friend lends me the bootleg of Biohazard, you know, the Japanese name of Resident Evil, and so I finally get to see the intro, and my first exposure was, I got a shotgun.
Chris Redfield.
I got a shotgun! So everyone knows the awesomeness of the Resident Evil intro, oozing with awesome mid-90s cheese. So cheesy that you can smell it. Chris Redfield, Barry Burton, Rebecca Chambers, Jill Valentine, and the badass himself, Albert Wesker. Never believe in the lie! Resident Biohazard. Since I wasn't able to play Resident Evil Director's Cut months before, I was able to actually get farther in my friend's bootleg copy of Biohazard up until you had to exit the mansion into the guardhouse and then the game would freeze. So I did not have any luck playing this game until I walked into my local EB Games and I paid $40 for a brand new Resident Evil Director's Cut. So now that I was finally able to play Resident Evil Director's Cut, I finally saw the censored version of the intro. I mean, come on, like, couldn't you do like a reshoot for that? And don't you find it weird that Capcom thinks smoking is bad, but blowing off a zombie's head with a shotgun is okay? I personally would rather have my kids smoking. Yeah, so I confess, I actually beat Resident Evil 2 before I played this game, which I will cover in the next video. But I actually spoiled a lot of this game by reading online, and so I knew what happened to all the characters, but you always know it's a very different experience reading about it and actually playing it. So I wanted to see what happened to all these characters, because I remember in Resident Evil 2, you can see that picture of the STARS team in the office, so I wanted to know what happened to them. And now, and something everybody absolutely loves about this game, you know, I've never heard any bad feedback about it, is the voice acting. The voice acting of the first Resident Evil is one of the most iconic performances ever in a video game.
Wesker!
Wesker!
Hope this is not Chris's blood.
I hope it's not Chris's blood. Barry!
Stop it! Don't open that door!
Stop it! Don't open that door!
You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right.
You almost became a Jill sandwich.
Jill, see if you can find any other clues. I'll be examining this.
See if you can find any clues. I'll be examining this.
Jill, here's a lockpick. It might be handy if you, the master of unlocking, take it with you.
You, the master of unlocking, could totally use this. I totally forgot the line, but I'm sorry.
Oh, Jill, this house is dangerous. There are terrible demons. Ouch!
This house has terrible demons.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Ah, it's the Moonlight Sonata.
It's the Moonlight Sonata. And the most epic performance of them all is Chris Redfield's Oscar-winning performance when Rebecca dies by the hunters. Rebecca! And the Oscar for Best Acting goes to Chris Redfield. Let's give him a hand.
My God!
Yeah, I confess, I had a save point in the game where I can watch Rebecca die over and over again. I am clearly sick in the head.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Someone is a traitor.
someone among us is a traitor. Yeah. I don't know what Capcom was trying to achieve with the acting from this game. I mean, I think they wanted to make it seem like a really cheesy but scary B-horror movie, and I think they definitely succeeded. Wow, with all that out of the way, let's finally get into my personal experience with the gameplay. Well, aside from the very awesome, cheesy voice acting, the thing that people absolutely love about this game, which is the highest point of this game, is the atmosphere. Like, the mansion is scary, the music is scary, I mean the sounds are scary. Like, this game was pretty scary. Yeah, so probably everybody's first scare, especially mine, was when after you unlock the door in the art gallery on the right side of the mansion on the bottom floor, when you're running through that yellow looking place with the drawers and stuff, and a dog jumps right through the window, scaring the shit out of you, and you're like, oh my god, bam, 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 screw that fucking dog. And so I kind of have to confess, when it comes to the Resident Evil games, I am a complete moron when it comes to the puzzles. I mean, I couldn't really solve any of them by myself, so I confess I had to go to GameFAQs to figure out how most of these puzzles were solved. Yeah, so being the complete moron that I was, let's definitely not get started on the painting puzzle. Yeah, so what was really awesome about this game was all the journals and files you can read. Now, I remember playing Biohazard, where all the journals and files were in Japanese, but the voice acting was in English. I was finally happy that I was able to read all these in English. I remember that one guy that was like, Yeah, I played poker with that guy and it was cheating, and hey, there was an accident in the lab, and then itchy, tasty, yummy, yummy. And there's a couple of tragic stories like, I'm turning into a zombie, I'm gonna end my life, farewell my love. A researcher got shot from the mansion when he was trying to leave. And also, the John and Ada. Yeah, and it's also funny, I played Resident Evil 2 first, so I was like, hey, it's the John and Ada thing, yeah! But I was pretty surprised you didn't find out who Umbrella was until the end of the game. Yeah, so what I remember too about the difficulty of the game wasn't like super hard. I mean, most of the zombies could be killed pretty easily with the gun. And I've even used the knife on some of them. I mean, the dogs, could be a problem. But then when you started fighting the bosses like Yon the Snake, the giant spiders down in the caves, and then there was Neptune the Shark down in the basement, down in the guardhouse, and there's Plant 42. That's when it spiked up a little bit in difficulty. But if you had enough ammo, it wasn't really a big problem, especially if you were Jill, because Jill had 8 slots compared to Chris's 6 slots. I mean, I remember with Chris, I kind of had to ditch the regular gun and have the shotgun be my default, so I had to be really conservative with Chris. And also when I got the Magnum, I didn't use the Magnum until I got to the end of the game with Tyrant. Yeah, so I also remember one of the craziest parts of this game. After you beat Plant 42 and you get the helmet key, you go back into the mansion, and then you see a first-person view of something like just and opening the door, and now most of the zombies are replaced with hunters. And holy shit, I hated these guys. Hated these hunter motherfuckers. And they would only be a problem in future Resident Evil games, trust me. And also, when I reached the end of the game where you had to fight Tyrant, I actually couldn't beat him at first, because usually when I killed most of the enemies, I would just stand there and not move because, I had enough ammo, I'm just going to keep shooting them until they die. Tyrant really requires you to move a lot, and I've seen people actually use a knife to beat Tyrant. I mean, that's freaking crazy. But then the second fight with Tyrant was a bit easier because you had a little more room to maneuver, but you really had to move around in order to beat him until Brad was able to drop the rocket launcher. Then you were able to beat him that way. And so I remember when I beat the game with both characters for the first time, my completed time was a bit over 6 to 8 hours, because even with GameFAQs, I was still kind of a moron when it came to this game. And I do admit there were a couple of puzzles I tried to solve myself before resorting to GameFAQs. I'm like, just fuck it, I'll just go to GameFAQs instead. Yeah, but then again, I got good enough at the game where I could beat the game under 2 hours. I'd get the rocket launcher and the key for the alternate costumes, and oh man, just killing everything with an unlimited rocket launcher was like a dream come true. Yeah, so what's also cool about this game is there's multiple endings depending on who's left alive by the end of the game. The first ending I got with Jill was the one with her and Barry. Barry mentions his family. I also remember with Chris, the first ending I got for him was, I rescued Jill and Rebecca. And also, I did play the game multiple times to get all the different endings. I remember the really sad one when Jill's all alone. Oh my god, I didn't rescue Barry because he was the traitor, but he was only being used by Wesker. I also did play through Arrange mode, where they kind of reconfigure some of the items and the enemies, which was really cool. But I do confess I've only played through it once with Jill in her alternate costume. Maybe one of these days I'll get around to playing it with Chris, but not anytime soon. So, the original Resident Evil, the game that started it all. Does it still hold up by today's standards? Yes and no, but mostly yes. Mostly yes, because it's like, you watch horror movies today, but you still want to check out horror movies of the 80s and 90s. And it's like checking out a cheesy 90s horror movie, which is still very, very entertaining, from its hilarious voice acting to its tank control gameplay, but most importantly, its very, very terrifying atmosphere. I mean, put the voice acting aside, you still have a very scary game with a lot of jump scares. You're scared by the music, by the atmosphere. I mean, it's so hard to replicate this type of game in this type of atmosphere, and the sequels to Resident Evil haven't been able to do that much until Resident Evil 7. Yeah, so where can you get this game? The important question is, where can't you get this game? I mean, you can get it on the PC, which has the Uncut intro, but you had to get it on eBay. You can still get the original discs on eBay for pretty cheap on the Saturn and the PlayStation, but I definitely recommend getting the PSN version, which you can also play on the Vita. And there's also the remake, which I will cover in a separate video because the remake is definitely very awesome. So that ends this episode of Awesome Video Game Memories about Resident Evil. If you have any memories about this game, make sure to leave those in the comments below. Take care.
Hey guys, want to support us? You can support us at patreon.com/BattleGeekPlus because every dollar helps us bring you a better show.